What's up, guys? Jason, I'm New Age Revolution down here in the cave for a, kind of a impromptu, unexpected video. I had some thoughts and, of course, wanted to share them with you and then get your thoughts on the same question slash topic. A long time ago, well, not a long time ago, basically throughout the life of the channel, we'd always talked about, like, a feeling, right, of childhood that, or a feeling of the 80s or whatever that we just can't put into words, right? Why was it better back then? What was the feeling that we're trying to duplicate? I talked about, whatever happened at nighttime, and I talked about trying to recreate a feeling, right? But it's so hard to say what that feeling is. And a lot of you guys are like, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's so hard to put it into words. So I thought I would put it into, take it out of words and put it into a feeling, like actual, sometimes throughout life, I'll get a feeling of a place that brings me back in time, and I can kind of feel, I can feel the childhood, or I can feel the 80s during a particular experience. All right, so what am I talking about? Well, the other day, I went shopping by myself at Kohls. And I don't know if you all have a Kohls in your area, but Kohls is a department store. But it is certainly not a Walmart / Target type of store. It's a department store. And when I think I had to do an Amazon return or something. And I buy, a lot of my clothes at Kohls and Target. So if I'm in there, I usually walk around and look at some stuff. But as I was walking through Kohls, I got this feeling. I got a feeling of I am back in time right now, because department stores were so much more utilized in the 80s, our childhoods. You had Sears, you had J.C. Penney's, you had later on you had a store called Kaufman's. Maybe some of you went to Macy's. We had a store locally here called the Bon-Ton. And usually these were mall anchor stores, but in even earlier times, they were standalone stores. And there were a few standalone J.C. Penney's and a few standalone Sears in my area. And we utilized them a lot more than we did now. You did your back-to-school shopping a lot there. You got your clothes there. You got some of your housewares there. And, so as I was walking through Kohls, I was like, wow, this hasn't changed, right? The stores, the concept of the store hasn't changed from the big box anchor department stores of the 80s. It's full of clothes, separated into the men's section, separated in the women's section. You got, shoes and belts and things in another section. And then towards the back of the store is the housewares, the bedding and the bathroom towels and some kitchen stuff. And I was like, this is good. Like, this is a good feeling. So Kohls, for me, is huge. I always enjoyed that store, but now I think I enjoy it even more because, like I said, as I was walking through it, I got brought back to the past, and it felt good. So then I started thinking, all right, what else? What else recreates or brings me back to a feeling of that time? Pizza Hut. Not Pizza Hut, go to the restaurant, bring it to my house and sit at my table and eat it, but going into a Pizza Hut restaurant, which we have done a few times, is a step back in time. They have not really updated the Pizza Huts near me. It's still, the vibe in there, it's still all red and black, checkerboard or whatever. It's still dark in there. They still have those beautiful Pizza Hut chandelier lights hanging above every table. And up until COVID, they were still giving you your soda in a pitcher with those beautiful red Pizza Hut cups that I will be purchasing off of eBay soon. I went to Pizza Hut during like the middle of COVID, and they were gone. The cups were gone because they stopped serving. They stopped using plates and they stopped using glasses. And so now you get a bottle of soda at Pizza Hut. And I don't know if that's going to go back to normal or if it just happened because of, COVID, or if it's changed forever. But they changed that. The vibe is the same. Pizza Hut, you walk in the door of Pizza Hut, you sit down with your family to eat dinner, you go back in time a little bit. I enjoy that. The pizza's a little different. The pizza is absolutely a little different to me. I ate Pizza Hut a lot as a kid, and I think the pizza's different, but the atmosphere inside the restaurant is absolutely the same. Camping. You've seen on the channel, my kid and I have gone camping 4 times. We went twice last year and twice this year. We didn't record this year, but we went ourselves. And camping, for me, absolutely brings back childhood and the 80s. And my guess is because there's nothing modernized about camping, right? We don't use, even if we had a camper, there's nothing overly modernized about campers, right? It's still a camper. It might have some gadgets and doodads and a television, but it's still a camper. But we still tent camp. And so nothing has modernized about the tent. Nothing has modernized about the picnic tables that are at every campground. Nothing has modernized about the fire pits that are at every campsite. Nothing. It's still the same, right? The trees are still the same. The dirt hasn't modernized. And for the most part, we have nothing to do with our phones or anything like that when we're camping. Obviously, when we were recording for you guys, we were modernizing a bit. But, it's still just primitive food, fire, and a tent. And walking around, Hamlin Beach and trying to get entertainment from bike riding or walking or my kid was looking for rabbits, things like that. That hasn't changed a bit. Camping is still a blast back to childhood. Another one that I thought of, and this is kind of strange, and the point of all of this is to give me your guys' thoughts. Give me your guys' thoughts on what brings you back. What about today, 2021, that you experience? It's probably a quick flash. It's probably like, whoa, that just brought me back. But what are some things in your life, in your modern life, that bring you back to childhood? And another thing I felt the other night, and I was like, oh, that still kind of feels the same. You know that we have, obviously changed our viewing habits with television. We don't have it's changed, right? We don't, many of us don't even have a cable company anymore that we utilize. Most of us are streaming. Things have changed in the television world. And I fell right along with it. So I can't complain. But our streaming site, we have all kinds of streaming apps on the television, but our cable provider is YouTube TV. It's the one that gives us what we want in the house. The biggest DVR. You can run it on all the TVs in the house at the same time. I've looked at Sling TV. You can only run it on one TV unless you buy a better tier or whatever. So we use YouTube TV for now. And they have a guide, right? They have a guide, and they have, YouTube TV has a lot of very common channels that we all had or grew up having, TNT, things like that, TBS. And I was scrolling through the guide, and I think it was AMC, American Movie Classics. I started looking at some horror. I saw some horror titles, and I remembered that in October, a lot of these cable channels, TBS, A&E, or AMC, American Movie, sometimes Turner Movie Classics, TMC, if that still exists, the Sci-Fi Channel, things like that. They will do horror movie marathons. And as I was like flipping through, and you can kind of scroll forward and see what's coming, I was like, whoa, this brought me back. Like, this feels good. Even though TV has changed ridiculously, and the concept of cable and just everything has changed. And I think we did a show on whatever happened to TV, but I'll probably talk more about that, about the changes and the feel of cable television. But seeing that horror movie marathon in October, right, brought me back, right? So forget all the politics, forget all the religious stuff, forget all the, I don't know, whatever social awareness, political correctness stuff that's going on. It's October, and some cable stations are playing good old-fashioned horror movie marathons because it's October. And that made me feel good. That brought me back. I'm not a fan of watching a movie on television, on a network. I'd prefer to watch it from, Blu-ray or something. But what a great feeling. What a great feeling to know that they're still doing these things, and it's still good, and it's October, and American AMC is going to have Halloween, and they'll do I saw a little Nightmare on Elm Street marathon going on one channel the other night, and unfortunately when I tuned in, it was the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which is not even worth mentioning. But I thought that was cool. I thought that was great that they're still doing that. That gave me a feeling. The biggest thing that I can think about, it was my grandparents' house. And we've talked about this before too. I lived with them from 12 or 13 on, but spent a lot of time prior to 12 or 13 spending the night and spending the weekends at their house. And they lived in the same house since 1985. So pretty much all of my memories are of that particular house. And then, like I said, I lived there and grew up there. I didn't leave until I was 22 or 23. That is the one place on earth that was able to transport me back in time. The feelings within that house. It's almost like, I don't even know if this is like a real concept, or maybe it is, but people talk about energy, right? Energy all the time. I almost feel like the decade of the 80s got trapped, the energy got trapped in that house. And when you were there, you felt it, right? And it was very, very, very noticeable for me. I think there were a lot of tangible reasons this happened. Their grandparents, they're older, they're not really modernizing their house that much. They still hung their cordless phone, right? They hung their telephone on the wall still, right? Their cordless phone. So you'd have to pull it off the wall when it was ringing. They never got the concept of voicemail, so they had an answering machine still, a digital answering machine, but still, I was the recording on that answering machine. They didn't update their furniture. They didn't update their furniture all that much. They certainly didn't update their kitchen appliances, right? So they didn't have the stainless steel fridge with the ice maker and the water and all that crap. They had a little brown fridge. right? That they'd probably had for decades prior. And their kitchen, their kitchen cabinets were brown, like wooden, and they still had Formica countertops and linoleum, and so aesthetically the house felt older, but not too old, right? It certainly had an 80s vibe to it. It didn't have like a 50s or 60s style vibe to it. It had an 80s vibe to it. Another feel in that house was carpeting, right? I am a lover of carpeting, and unfortunately, I live with people who don't like carpeting, and so we barely have any carpeting in our house. My kids have it in their rooms. We have it in our upstairs hallway, and then we have it going up our stairs. But our bedroom, the family room, the theater room, the living room, the dining room, no carpet, none. None. But that house did. My grandparents' house did. But then there was more than that. There was a smell. Obviously, there was a smell. My grandparents were both heavy smokers, and cigarette smoke is gross. So I'm not saying that the cigarette smoke in the house was appealing. It wasn't. But something happens, like there's cigarette smoke, and then there's the scented candles that my grandmother would always burn, and then there's whatever was cooking on the stove, and you mix all that with Grandpa's aftershave, you mix all that up, and it's a beautiful smell. It is a beautiful smell. So that always lingered in the house. But the feel, like I've talked about the evenings in that house, and there was just something about nighttime in that house, even when I was older, even when I was much older and my grandparents were dying and I would have to go and take care of them. Some nights I would stay over, the house had the same feeling, and it's so hard to describe. I think it has to do with how they ushered in night. I think I told you that around 6:30, 7 o'clock, the world was shut off. Lights were shut off. You were in one room. You watched the television. Don't get up. Don't move. Don't go in other rooms. It's nighttime. And that vibe stayed with me when I spent the night over the house. And that vibe stayed with me when I lived there. So my grandparents' house is absolutely a time machine back. Unfortunately, they're both gone. And the house sat vacant for many years, actually, after their death, until somebody came and bought it and flipped it. They changed it. They didn't gut it necessarily, but they changed the kitchen. They modernized the kitchen. I saw it on Zillow or something, and it's not the same, obviously. But so tell me, what is it for you? I'm looking around my room. I can tell you this gives me a feeling, like just having these, holding these, watching these, even if it's watching them on a 70-inch 4K television, or coming down here and watching them on my TV, these still give me a feeling, a vibe. What else? What do you guys, when you're out in the world, when you're it's kind of like a deja vu thing, which I don't think is a real thing, but you get a feeling and you're like, whoa, hang on a second. I felt that in Kohls, like I said the other day. That's what prompted all of this. What is it for you? What brings you back? Brings you back in time. Talk about it, as you all do so well. That's all. Just food for thought, as they say on the streets. Good night now.